Hey guys, Jamie Duvall here, doing my third storytelling piece. This is a story based upon things that happened to me as a child concerning my grandparents. Some of it's a little bit embellished, some of it's not at all embellished. I hope you enjoy it. The name of this story is called Grandma Knows Best. Some people can question who their father is. I, on the other hand, question who my grandparents are. I was always told to trust my elders, but hanging around my grandparents really made me question the validity of that statement. For example, the time that my grandmother pushed my sister and I out into a torrential downpour with a bar of soap so she didn't have to waste water later giving us a shower. I understood the logic, semi, but not as that bolt of lightning came striking down 2 inches from my feet. Or the time that my grandmother decided to make homemade toys. I'm all about reusing and recycling, but when she gave my sister an empty pill bottle with toys and money inside, I think that was crossing the line, especially considering that my sister's been able to open those types of bottles since she was 3 years old. The medicine cabinet at home had to be kept under lock and key, especially after my mom found the red mustache and 3 bottles of NyQuil under her bed. Or there was the time that Grandma took us to the hospital to visit her patients, and the whole time she tried selling me pills and marijuana. I was only 9 years old. My grandfather wasn't any better. He had no teeth, barely had any hair, and his diet consisted of sugary foods, including Coca-Cola, donuts, and Oreo cookies. And this was funny because he was the one that was left in charge of cooking. Grandma didn't cook a thing. So breakfast did consist of Oreo cookies and milk at times. Things that me and my sister loved, but my parents not so much. My grandfather also had this other habit. He's a chain smoker, and he would sit outside all day long, smoking cigarette after cigarette, just staring up at the sky. His other favorite thing to do was to go to car dealerships and haggle them down thousands of dollars. When he would finally get them where he wanted them, he would say, "No thanks, I've changed my mind." He also liked to go do fun things as a family, like the time that he decided to take us for ice cream. Did I mention that his sense of time and distance was a little bit off? Hours after we got in the car, we realized we were headed to Canada, because it's colder up there, so ice cream must be better, right? Well, the thing that really made me question who my grandparents were was the time that my sister and I spent a summer there. They had gone to the store and left my sister and I home alone to our own devices, which was their first mistake. We decided to play spy, and as we were searching through the closets, we noticed that nothing in the house seemed to belong to my grandfather. Everything was my grandmother's. 4 closets. And they were all full of her dresses, her coats, her hats, her purses, all of her stuff. The dresser drawers were full the same way. The bathroom, all of her stuff was laid out on the counter. Her hair curlers, her brushes, her eyeshadow, her lipstick, her tweezers, her toothbrush, her shampoos. And remember, my grandfather had no teeth, so there was no toothbrush of his. Nothing was his. We started realizing we had only seen him in one outfit. Dark navy blue khakis, a white t-shirt, a long-sleeve blue button-up shirt, a navy blue sweater that pulled over, and some white shoes. Nothing else. When he lived in New York, that's what he wore. Now that he was in Florida, he was still wearing the same thing. It never changed. We decided we had to know what was going on. My grandparents told some crazy tales, so we knew we wouldn't get the truth from them. So we decided to go to the library and do some research. We hopped on our bikes, and when we got there, we went to the card catalog, which was still on the actual pieces of paper, and we pulled out the drawer that was labeled W, and we found Witchcraft 133.4. Awesome. We went to the shelves and we found the history of witchcraft, the history of Wicca, and we found some spells. And inside we found a potion for truth-telling. We decided we had to make it. Some of the ingredients were a little bit weird, but nothing that was out of the ordinary for my grandmother to eat. Frog legs, cow tongues, lizards, alligator, none of that was off limits for her. So we knew we could find everything we needed at home. When we got there, we had about 10 minutes to get this made before they walked through the door. The potion ended up coming out kind of pasty and yellowy, almost like a brown yellow mustard. And we decided that we would put it on a sandwich. Because like we said, Grandma would eat anything. So we smeared a big dollop on some liverwurst, put it on some white bread, and had a beer and a sandwich waiting for her when she walked in the door. My grandfather went outside to go smoke his cigarette, and me and my sister sat there and watched Grandma. And we watched. And we watched. And all of a sudden, she got a little woozy. And we didn't know if it was the beer or if it was the potion. So we decided to ask a few questions to see. Hey Grandma, how long have you and Grandpa been married for? Far too long. This is going to be a little bit harder. And we called my grandmother Ducky. She didn't want to be a grandma. And when she was little, her hair was really yellow like a little baby duckling. So that's what we called her. But we knew that her name was Teresa Setzer Broderick. So we asked her, hey, is your real name Teresa Setzer Broderick? Of course it is. What else would it be? And when she said that, her nose shot out half an inch. I wasn't sure I had seen it, but I looked at my sister, and the look on her face let me know that I had seen it. So I asked another question, just to be sure. Hey, Grandma, are you really 29? Of course I am. Look how beautiful. I'm not a day over. And as she said that, her nose shot out another inch. I kid you not. And the look on her face, what is going on here? We laughed, giggled just a little, and told her. She wasn't amused, and she didn't believe us. So we asked her another question. Hey, Grandma, have you ever had plastic surgery? Of course not, she said. And all of a sudden, her nose shot out 2 more inches. And it was so long now, it was hanging down, curled. It was hilarious, but not so amusing to Grandma. We had her exactly where we wanted her, and she knew it. Grandma, we want to know who you guys really are. Why doesn't Grandpa have any clothes? Why doesn't he have hair? Where did his teeth go? Why does he only eat sugary foods? Grandma scooted her chair out. She knew she had to tell us the truth now, or her nose wouldn't stop growing. So she went to the closet and pulled out a box, and inside was a photo album. And I bet you're wondering why I didn't find this before. You can't tell this from the video, but I'm only 4'11", and back then I was even shorter, so tall shelves didn't really exist to me. Only things on the lower floors. I digress, though. So Grandma pulls out this photo album, and we see this picture, and it's her as a young girl, and she's on the arm of this really cute gentleman, and we say, is that Grandpa? No, that's not Grandpa. That's Johnny something or other. And every page she turned, she was on the arm of a different man. Sometimes 4 or 5 men. Grandma, are you a hooker? Of course. We prefer the term Lady of the Night. What? You were a hooker? Oh my God. Well, it wasn't that bad. It was a different time back then. Was Grandpa one of your Johns? No. Here's a picture of your grandfather. And she turns the page to a picture of a man lying naked on a couch. Grandma, you are not doing anything to help your story right now. No. That is your grandfather after I hit him with my car. What? You hit him with a car? Well, look. I was really born Mary Catherine Baker. My father, your great-grandfather, was the town baker, and he wanted me to take over the family business, and I didn't want to do that. So I left at a young age because I wanted to be a nurse, and he didn't approve. I was putting myself through school and working waitressing tables during the day, and I had some clients at night after class. And one night after I got off of a double shift at the hospital I repeat, I was driving down a long road. It was dark out, and all of a sudden something fell out of the sky and I hit it. And when I screeched to a halt, I got out of the car, and laying there in the middle of the street was this man, naked. No clothes, no keys, no identification, nothing. And there was nobody around. So I dragged him to my car and I brought him home, and I laid him on the couch, and I took this picture while I was waiting for him to wake up. It took him 3 days, and when he woke up, he didn't remember who he was, where he had come from. He didn't know if he had any family. He had no money, no job, no place to go, and it didn't seem like anybody was looking for him. So I told him he could stay on my couch until he found a job and a place to live. Well, there's weirdos out there, and I didn't know everything about him, so I told him that my name is Teresa. And since I like the name James, I decided to name him James. And that's what I called him. And things were great. He would cook and clean for me while I was gone. And even after he got a job with IBM, I would come home at night and he would have dinner all ready, and afterwards he would clean up. It was fabulous. And he grew on me. So he stuck around. But there was one thing that always bothered me. He was always out there smoking cigarettes and looking up at the sky. And he never wanted to talk about the night that he fell out of the sky. So I decided I had to do something. So one night I slipped into the pharmacy at the hospital, and I took some extra tranquilizers and I put it in his soda. And after he passed out, I cut open his head. And what I found inside amazed me. His brain, it was different. It was smaller and shaped different. And I knew it was smaller because I had lived with him for 6 months. I didn't have to cut open his head to find that out. But it changed colors all the time. And it smelled like cotton candy. It was so weird. And I ran to the phone to go call the hospital and call the police, but something stopped me. I mean, here was a man, maybe an alien, who cleaned for me, who cooked for me, who took care of me. It's hard enough finding a human man to do that. I wasn't sure I could go through that again. So I decided I could live with everything. Nobody had to know. So I stitched up his head, and when he woke up, I had a large Coca-Cola sitting next to him and a chocolate donut, and we've been together ever since. My sister and I just sat there in shock. We didn't know what to say. With every truth that my grandmother told, her nose got smaller and smaller and smaller. My sister and I just looked at each other. We looked back at Grandma. And we looked back at each other. We decided we had to ask one more question. Grandma, have you ever murdered anybody? She looked at her nose. Put her finger up. Of course not, darlings. She slowly got up from her chair, leaving her plate and her empty beer bottles on the table for Grandpa to clean up. The end. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Sorry it was longer than usual. I had tried recording this several times, and this was the shortest time that I could get it down to. Everything else was in the 18 to 20 minute range. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, this was an original piece, which is why I decided just to go over time. You guys have a great day. Thanks for listening.